Hey folks, Dan Fedor here. I thought I'd do a video today. It's sort of long overdue. I've been working on these sort of precision issues and other problems for a while, and some of you are getting impatient to see a little bit more progress, and also here's some of the work that Josh has been doing on the soundtrack, which is playing in the background right now. But what I wanted to show you today was sort of the fruit of the labors of the last couple of weeks and even months into the past, where I first started this orbital plotter. And I've created this sort of chair object navigation station to help me with testing it. So what I'll do is, this is the ship that I worked on in the last video. It was the one I used for testing out air pressure simulation, and I've just thrown this seat in there to help me now with testing navigation and plotting. So I'll load up the crew sim, and it's the same ship with a crew thrown in there doing crew-like things. Right now it is seeking privacy. Brickle is seeking privacy, and we can tell Brickle to use the navigation station. So she walks down there to its access point, and then we see the orbital plotter. And this is a real-time picture of what's going on in the universe. We're currently pretty far out there. This is like almost the Kuiper belt. Pluto is probably that guy right there. You've got some of the trans-Neptunian, I think they're called Chimera, planetoids are out here. Those are all the green circles you see. And then as you get further in, these are the outer planets like Jupiter and Saturn. The asteroid belt, which currently only has Ceres mapped. And then the inner planets with the sun at the middle here. Our ship is this triangle up here. It's the bright green triangle. And down here is the sun and also the cursor. So the map, you can scroll the map around, and the cursor is kind of where we've targeted as an endpoint for a potential course. A couple other features that I've been working on. You'll see a red circle around the sun. This is kind of the gravitational half radius. So full gravitational force at the center of the sun, and at this red circle it's about half that strength. Or maybe it's a quarter, I forget what I chose, but it's basically there to kind of show you a significant gravity well around objects. So if you plot a course that goes through a red circle, it's probably going to get perturbed by gravity, which reminds me, I have my gravity turned off in the plotter, so I'll turn that on. So if we go back up here, we're sitting right now in the fourth ring out, which is Mars. And actually that's confirmed up here. Our current point of reference is Mars. We're sitting about 8,500 kilometers away from it, and it's moving 24 kilometers per second faster than we are. That's basically because I'm sitting at a dead stop in space right here. So over time, Mars is going to be traveling in this direction away from us because we don't have any velocity yet. It has two moons, Phobos and Deimos, and we're sitting pretty close to the ring for Phobos. It might even be, we're practically on Phobos, which might make this an interesting experiment. But anyway, the other thing that you can see here is as the cursor moves, the game plots sort of a potential course between where we are and where we want to be. And it shows you the orientation of the ship along that route, plus or minus more visual steps if you want to see with more resolution. But basically, it's always going to choose a burn towards the goal halfway there, and then burn away from it the other half, to basically arrive again at a dead stop. However, one of the things that I've been working on is a way to rendezvous with something that's moving. And in order to do that, we switch away from free mode to, it's called a snap mode in the code, but basically what that does is it looks for whatever body is closest to the center of the screen. In this case, Phobos, or I could choose Deimos. a little bit out there. It might be a more interesting choice. So I'll hold that selection and then back out a bit to show you what's going on. So now what's happening is the crosshairs, because we're now rendezvousing with it, the crosshairs have moved to where it will be by the time we get there. And when we get there is determined by two things. A, how far away it is, as well as how much faster it's moving than we are. So we have to do two things. We have to get to where it will be, and we have to get there at the speed it'll be moving. And that's kind of where all my problems came from in the last couple of weeks. Long story short, it's really complicated to figure out orbital mechanics and thrust and make everything rendezvous at the right time and speed and location. It can be done, but I'm coming to the realization that you kind of need a different style of rendezvous depending on your starting and ending situations, and I don't want to spend the rest of my life writing that. As much fun as that might be from a scientific challenge point of view, I'd like to finish the rest of the game. So for now, we assume you can burn halfway there and then decelerate the other halfway there, plus a little bit of extra burn to overcome the velocity difference. So every trip is going to take that format. And because that's not always accurate, I've added this error adjustment. And you'll see if I tweak that adjustment, it's basically adjusting my my course plotting parameters slightly plus or minus so that I can actually make the final position of my ship, that last triangle, match the final position of, in this case, Deimos, in the time it takes me to get there and reach that speed. So it's a little bit of a fudge factor, but the way this game works, most ships have a fusion drive, which is efficient enough that you don't have to do any sort of clever orbital transfers like Hohmann transfer orbits or low delta V orbits, because you've got plenty of thrust, you've got plenty of reactant to get to where you're going. The real limiting factor now is, will the human inside be crushed by super accelerated trips? You can see here this trip is going to max out at 1.4 G, and most of that trip is going to be burning towards or away. So you're basically simulating almost Earth-like gravity through the entire trip, except for those points where the ship flips over to make a maneuver. So the other thing I'll do is I will fast forward a bit, just to kind of give you an idea of what's happening. So if you look here, I actually haven't engaged yet, so I'm going to engage. And now the ship's pointed in the direction it wants to go because it started flying in that direction, or started thrusting in that direction. And you'll see I'm losing Mars. I'm starting from a dead stop. I have to get up enough speed to even match Mars, if not overtake it. And up here you can see those values updating. So I'm getting closer and closer to the speed Mars is traveling, and I'm almost there. In fact, it looks like I might have overtaken Mars because now I'm going 7 or 8 kilometers per second faster. The ship is now getting close to this midpoint. Oops, looks like Brickle got tired of using the nav, so we're going to go back. So we're getting close to this midpoint, and at that midpoint we switch to a deceleration burn because now we're moving 21,000 kilometers per second faster than this whole orbital system, and we want to arrive at as close to zero as possible so that we're both moving at the same speed. So for the remainder of this trip, we're pretty much trying to slow down to end up at 0 kilometers per second relative to Phobos. Sorry. I guess I've switched. I thought it was on Deimos, but maybe I'm on Phobos now. We are... Actually, it looks like we are ending up... Oh yeah, Deimos, there we go. So now I'm going to slow down, because you can see... I'll speed up a little bit. You can see we're going to end up close to it and moving at pretty close to the same speed, which is about where the game is going to switch to another type of landing. We'll have probably some orbital or docking type UI to handle the very fine-tuned landing process or docking process. And meanwhile, that whole trip, like this is still a ship. It's still simulating things like air pressure, and things will be breaking down. The crew will be doing the things it needs to do to stay alive, or hopefully to develop and show drama, and the player will have to deal with that drama. So the next step is going to be hooking up the segments of that trip, the launch, the maneuvers, and the docking into something a little bit more visible here, so that you can actually fly from point A to point B, and during that trip have to worry about low G. Sorry, I was just checking my mic there. So yeah, that's basically what I've been working on for the last couple weeks, and hopefully you've enjoyed seeing where things are. It's a little bit of a treat for the weekend, and I'll see you guys next week.